Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Welcome to this beautiful, beautiful kahal, this congregation that's with us this evening. We're joined with all of us together. I know there are those who are newer to our congregation who join us tonight because prior to our service we had our new member Shabbat extravaganza, we'll say, and welcoming you, and tonight we'll welcome you even more. I know we have our tribesters that are here also for another wonderful celebratory Shabbat meal as they will join together this evening. and all of us come here for whatever reasons we do. Some of us are mourning, some of us are reflecting on what has happened this past week in our lives, in our hearts, in this world. And here we are tonight as community. Not only are we here physically, but we're here virtually as well. So turn around to those white cameras up there, wave Shabbat Shalom, welcome to one another, and we say Shabbat Shalom to all of you who are with us in our virtual community. Tonight is an extraordinary night, not only because we have all of you with us, which is always extraordinary and wonderful, but it's also we are joined by our colleague and friend, Rabbi Yael Vergan, and who is the rabbi of the Kihila, of the community that our Jewish community of San Diego partners with in Shahar Negev. And we are very excited to hear her drash a little bit this evening and hear some of her words and insights. And we welcome you, Rabbi Yael, to our community as your community. And so tonight is about this sacred unity that we have today. And I'm going to invite Rabbi Yael to come and bless our Shabbat candles, if you wouldn't mind, as we bring in Shabbat together. I want to remind you, as Rabbi Yael comes up, tonight is our Chai Shabbat. Some of our Chai band is on hiatus, let's just say. They're taking a little respite wherever you are. No guilt, but just a little bit. But we're very blessed to have our wonderful musicians with us. This special time that we're in is the 3 weeks that precede Pesach or Passover. The 3 special Shabbatot that we enter into this time, that the text reminds us to spiritually prepare or reminds us to get ready. Tonight we sit at the beginning of Shabbat Parah, which is about the Sabbath of the red heifer, as we know, and this is really about ritual purification. Next week we'll come to honor the new month of Nisan, Shabbat HaChodesh, where we'll get ready to sanctify the new moon. And then our last Shabbat is Shabbat HaGadol, which is the Shabbat that we know of Pesach. This is the Shabbat where technically the Torah scholar addresses the congregation and reads the laws of Passover. Traditionally, it's the longest sermon that is given all year long, but I promise that will not be the case. But in this moment, all of these 3 Shabbatot add up to something. They're helping us prepare. Just like many of us clean the chametz, clean the leaven out of our homes prior to Passover, to remind us of the quickness that the Israelites had to move out of Egypt as they entered into their journey towards the Promised Land. It is also a reminder in these moments, these 3 Shabbatot are indicators for us to slow down a little bit, to prepare ourselves spiritually, to ritualize, to cleanse, to bring forward the things that are whole in our lives, the things that we can look towards. And so this is the moment. And tonight, as we begin this Shabbat, Rabbi Yael will kindle our Shabbat lights, and we'll join together.
Amen. Every week on Shabbat, we are able to bring light into our world, and this Shabbat is no different, because not only do we get to bring in the light, the physical lights of Shabbat, but we also get to welcome a new light and a new life into our world. So if Margot Alexis Barr Gordon could bring her parents Daniel and Jamie up. Hello, friends. Look out at this, your community. This is a big community to be a part of. And you are a part of something truly special, Margot. Your Hebrew name, Keshet, means rainbow. It is the sign that God used to show the world, show Noah, that this world is going to be a better place. And we know that this world is going to be a better place because you, Margot, are in it. And so as we wrap you in your grandfather's, your great-grandfather's? Great-grandfather's talit, we offer this blessing of naming. Yeah, I know. Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, kayem et ha'elda hazot, vayikre Shema b'Yisrael Keshet bat Daniel Moshe. Zot haktana gedola tihiyeh. Kishem shenichnesa labrit ken tikanes l'Torah ul'hupa ul'ma'asim tovim. Our God and God of our ancestors, sustain this child through her parents' loving care. Let her be known among our people Israel by the name Keshet Bat Daniel Moshe. That's a great name. Your parents did good. Well done, guys. May her name be a source of joy to her and inspire her to serve our people and all humankind. May her parents rejoice in her growth of body and soul. As they have brought their daughter into the covenant, so may they, with wisdom and patience, lead her to a life filled with Torah, the blessing of learning and community, chuppah, a loving relationship worthy of God's blessing, and ma'asim tovim, the pursuit of good deeds. And together we all say, Amen. And we sing Siman Tov Mazel Tov. Siman Tov Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Elanu. Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Elanu. Elanu, Elanu, Ulecho Yisrael. Elanu, Elanu, Ulecho Yisrael. Elanu, Elanu, Ulecho Yisrael. Elanu, Elanu, Ulecho Yisrael. Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Elanu. Mazel Tov. Thank you. You're part of the family now. There are a lot of people out here who want to give you lots and lots of hugs. You'll get to it, the oneg. It's going to be great.
Part of the joy of welcoming into Shabbat is getting our souls ready for that moment. We're entering into Kabbalat Shabbat, a time where we're not quite ready for that, to feel that moment to be called to prayer, but we're getting ready. We're getting our neshamot. We're getting our souls ready. And so this is our time. So we invite you to join us on page 11 as we sing several versions of Dodi Li, the words that we hope inspire and translate into this moment, especially in these moments in which we live. We join together. Shwenti Lachadudi Likrat Kala, come my beloved, as we greet the Sabbath bride.
Shabbat nekabela, lechadodi likraka, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'diburecha, ishmianu el hameyuchad. Adonai echad, Shema echad, l'shem tiferet v'nitila. Lechadodi b'nei Shabbat nekabela, lechadodi likrakala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Hitoreri, hitoreri, ki ba'arei kumi ori, uri, uri, shir daberi, ki v'Adonai alayich nikar. Lechadodi b'nei Shabbat nekabela, lechadodi likrakala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Boi v'shalom ateret balav, gam b'simcha u'b'tzahara, toch emunei am segula. Shabbat nekabela, lechadodi likrakala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Ya la la ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 la. We turn towards Jerusalem and we call each other to worship Baruch Hu, page 146.
Avat Olam, Beth Israel, with great love, God has loved us. Page 148.
Ahavat Olam, Beit Israel, Hamcha ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadeta. Israel, Amcha ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadeta. Al kein Adonai Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai
Join us on page 150. V'ahavta
תמצא את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Before we move into the Michamocha, which is the part of our service of our tefillah that reminds us that we're journeying. It reminds us that we move from the narrowness to greater expansiveness. I'm thinking of those that have expanded our community. I'm thinking of those that give their new insights, their new knowledge, their new love. And so we can return it to them as well. So I'm going to invite in this moment all of those who are joining us, who are newer to our congregation, and who we honor this evening. I invite you to rise in your place so that we can first take a look at this magnificent group of individuals, and we can first welcome you. But I want you to hold these words for a moment. Tonight we take a moment to reflect on those who, through the fluidity of life and journeying through a time of unknowns, has found their way into making Beth Israel their home, your home. It brings us tremendous joy to welcome each and every one of you. See, they're already excited. I mean, come on. Throughout this past year and a half, and I would even say beyond, you've leaned into resilience, hope, and community, a community that has already given you a sense of belonging, whether virtually or now in person. I hope that you have been met with a warm embrace that will both encourage and inspire you and evolve your Jewish passion and identity inside this large community, to find one another, to find smaller communities that will offer even more opportunities to engage and be part. The synagogue, by definition, is a place of assembly. It has been the central address of the Jewish people for over 2,000 years. It's the centerpiece of vibrancy, of community and engagement that has held our communities through our greatest joys and our deepest hurts. As part of this assembly place, you are not joining, per se. We are not a gym or a country club. I remind you that in this moment, we both recognize and honor that you are adding another address where you can and should always feel at home. Here, as part of our Beth Israel family, people matter. Children matter. Their voices matter. Patience matters. And I believe our tradition helps us to evolve our sense of self, better define our passions, and elevate our work and sacred service in this world. Right here is both the space and place to curb our egos and to be mindful that there is something greater that each of us serve. From celebrations and commemorations to learning and praying and doing together, We have so much to share and experience with one another. As you join in this sacred moment and in this sacred covenant, please know that you are connected to the community that is around you, both here physically and virtually, and to the Jewish people everywhere, and to the many who charted the course and came before us. Here, you matter. And it is with that recognition that we are so very pleased to welcome each and every one of you as officially part of our Beth Israel family. And along with my clergy partners, and on behalf of our community, we officially offer you this blessing of our love and appreciation for each of you.
Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and protect each of you.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka. May God's face shine upon each of you with radiance and with grace.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God's presence ever be with each and every one of you. May you be granted health, long life, and the fulfillment and the blessing of peace, as we say together, Amen.
Amen.
And when we reach this new moment, this time, this milestone, we join in the words of Shechianu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'echianu v'kimanu v'higianu b'zman hazeh. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'echianu v'kimanu v'higianu b'zman hazeh.
We love you all. Welcome to each and every one of you.
You may be seated. As we join together, page 152, as we offer our prayer, Mi Chamocha.
Adonai, זרע ובניך, בוקע ים לפני משה ומרים, זה אלי ענו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. ושמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ושלום מעתה ועד עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, את השבת, את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, את השבת, את השבת. יום השביעי שבת, ויהי נפש, ויהי נפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, את השבת, את השבת, את השבת, את השבת, את השבת.
As we turn to the beginning of our Amidah on page 155, we'll begin with these words, Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Now, for some of our new members, some of these melodies may be new or unfamiliar. We ask God in this blessing to open our mouths and declare whatever words we are able to say, even if those words are just as simple as yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai.
Join with us.
Yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai. We rise together, page 155. Yai dai 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 dai, 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 yai dai 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 dai d
Adonai, Sefatai Tiftach, V'yagi Tehilatecha. Adonai, Sefatai Tiftach, V'yagi Tehilatecha.
We continue individually and silently through page 167. We'll invite you to be seated when you finish your Amidah. Ose shalom bimroma uyase shalom aleinu Israel We realize that just as we honor those who are new to our community, we recognize that there are those who have been in our community a long time, those who have been in our community just a short time, and those who have been in our community for a significant amount of time, that we are praying for those who are in need of healing, that there is someone in their hearts that is in need of healing, and we call those names to mind at this time. In our community, we're thinking of Nicole Ahadian, Ari Zalman Leib Ben Shoshana V'Moshe, Bob Berenson, Pam Carno, Grayson DeNovo, Samantha Farish, Dr. Robert Fox, Denise Garrick, Nancy Gordon, Elliot Goldstein, Robert Gruder, Alan Hobenstock, Ellen Hutz, Beth Johnson, Ruthie Jordan, Harry Leitner, Marcia Lewis, Claudia Liebenson, Maria Luro, Jim McIndoe, Mary Marshall, Yoram Nines, David Murillo III, Ala Naidenova, Lynn Richard, Sharon Ritter, Karen Romer, Galina Rybolchenko, Max Rubenstein, Rhonda Schwartz, Jonis Slotko, Lenny Slotko, Lynn Slotkin, Bob Shearer, Cindy Spector, Gerald Trimble, David Tossman, Fred Valfer, Kathy Weil, John Weil, Sidel Weinstein, George Wise. Perhaps there's a name that's on your heart. I invite you to share that name as our eyes meet, and it's all right if more than one person says a name at a time. join together page 253 for our prayer for healing. Misha Berach.
The ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen.
As I mentioned as we began our service this evening, we welcomed into covenant a new, wonderful, beautiful, new life, newer life into our congregation. We come to this space with new friends and new family, and we also come to hear beautiful words from Rabbi Yael. Rabbi Yael is a pioneer in her own rights, not only as the Rabbi of Shar Negev. You know that she has her own posts in the work of justice in this world, and there is so much that needs to be done, and we are delighted to our friend, our colleague, Rabbi Yael, to inspire us with her own insights of Torah. Shalom, shalom.
Shabbat shalom. First, I apologize for my broken voice. Somewhere along the very long flight from Israel to here, I got this weird cold that only affected my voice. So that's zemayesh, that's what there is this evening. And if I make mistakes in English, you can only blame my high school English teachers. So very, very delighted to be here this evening. This Shabbat we read Parashat Shmini that marks the end of a very long process of building the Mishkan, which we read about in great detail for the last 7 parashot. And here I am visiting your beautiful Mishkan, your beautiful house of worship that you built for a long time. And it is such a wonderful feeling for me and such an honor to be invited in. And I thank you so much for this opportunity and this special experience. I think we can all relate to the joy of building these days. Building our communities again after more than 2 years of social distancing. For us in Israel, we keep building new Reform communities and building the constantly growing liberal Jewish presence and activity. And I think for both of us, the joy of building and developing the connection between us. The parasha begins with a great excitement towards the consecration of the Mishkan, but later on continues with a terrible tragedy, the death of Nadav and Avihu, two of Aaron's sons. Sadly today also, the joy of building and the joy of Shabbat is shadowed by the human tragedy that still goes on in Ukraine and all the suffering and pain that it is causing. And also in Israel, the cycle of violence between Jews and Arabs continues with almost daily victims from both sides. You know, we finished the Amidah with Oseh Shalom Bimromav, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kol Israel, and in Israel, in our prayers we add Ve'al Kol Yoshvei Tevel, and upon all the residents of this universe. And I was thinking, as we prayed, about all people in the universe. The parasha starts on Leviticus chapter 9. It says, Vayehi bayom hashmini. And on the 8th day, Kara Moshe le'Aharon. Moses said to Aaron, Kach lecha egel. Take a calf of the herd for a sin offering and bring it before God. A calf, huh? What does that remind us? Immediately echoes the golden calf from 5 parashot ago, 5 weeks ago. Maybe it's hinting towards the coming event of the parasha, which, like in the case of the golden calf, teaches us that religious enthusiasm by itself is not enough to give us a moral direction and fulfillment. For the sin in both cases was not a lack of religious devotion, but misunderstanding of what true belief in God is demanding of us. We know that throughout history, people of all nations committed terrible acts in the name of some religious enthusiasm and the fire that only pretended to be the fire of loving God. It is also a parasha of siblings, right? Because it's the first time that Moses is talking to Aaron since the trauma of the golden calf. So I'm wondering, are there any siblings here in the audience? I see some, maybe. If there are, I think it's very special to be able to share those holy moments of welcoming the Shabbat with your siblings. This congregation and Sha'ar HaNegev community are also siblings, sister communities. We share Jewish identity, stories, and rituals. We share the love of our tradition and love for Israel. And even more than that, we share core values that we choose to learn from our tradition. For example, the holy idea that all human beings are created in the image of God, equality. In the beginning of this week, when I arrived to the States, it was March 21st, the equinox. That is also the International Day for Elimination of Racial Discrimination. So equality and fighting racism, those are our common values as liberal Jews here and in Israel. In his book about photography, the philosopher Roland Barthes, hope I'm saying it right, says that in a good photo, there is always one detail that he calls stabbing details. One that you cannot stop looking at, even if it's insignificant in the picture. So if we want to borrow this term to stories of the Torah, I think there's no doubt that the stabbing words of this parsha would be Vayidom Aharon. and Aaron was silent after the death of his sons. We read those words and never can forget them again. We stay speechless just like Aaron. In just 2 words, the Torah managed to pass the shock and the pain of Aaron and maybe all people around him. As a mother of 2 boys, I can relate to Aaron, and along with that, I want to cry out to him and say, do not be silent, Aaron. Do not be silent. Cry out for these violent and uncompromising death, because some acts we just cannot be silent about. We remember just a week ago when we read the scroll of Esther in Purim, how Mordechai sent her a message telling her, you cannot be silent in this crisis, you have to act. I think this is also relevant for both of our communities, asking what are the things we cannot be silent about these days? What is our obligation to tikkun olam, to fix the world? Let us all pray to have the courage and the good fire in our hearts to increase peace and justice in the world. As the prophet said, Lo isa goy el goy cherev, velo ilmedu od milchama. Nation shall not take upon sword against nation. They shall never again know war. The tradition connects the day of the consecration of the Mishkan to the beginning of the month of Nisan. So I would like to end, we're looking forward to Rosh Chodesh Nisan, which we will celebrate next Shabbat. Nisan is a month of spring, month of renewal, of fresh beginnings and new ideas. I think our communities can learn so much from each other about renewal. I come here and I get inspired, and I have so much to learn from how you keep renewing this amazing congregation. And I think also in Israel, there's some beautiful things being done. I brought this new Reform Siddur that came out just this last year. You can also be a new member here. Okay, it's called Filat Adam. And it's a wonderful Siddur because there's a lot, it really reflects the renewal of prayer. There's a lot of new, alongside the ancient words of the Tefillah. In this Siddur, we find a lot of new words of Jews from our times writing new tefillot, new poetry that relates to the tefillot. So that's a wonderful thing that I would like to share with you one day when you come to Israel or when I come here again. I work in Sha'ar HaNegev, which is an area, a country area with kibbutzim. I hope most of you know what it is. And in those kibbutzim, they also created some new ceremonies. For example, for holidays, they do things a little different than what you know here. And I think it's fascinating that we can learn from each other about the different ways that we celebrate, the different ways that we renew our religious life. So again, thank you for inviting me. And come to Israel. Let's stay in touch. And come visit us in Sha'ar HaNegev. And Shabbat Shalom. Thank you so much.
Shabbat Shalom. And Rabbi Yael knows that not only once, twice, 3 times over the next year, we will be in Sha'ar HaNegev, starting with our 11th and 12th graders this June. And we will be there in June, long awaited to get back. In October, some of you will be there in Sha'ar HaNegev. And as well in May, with our Federation trip, we will join together also in a mifkash, in this exchange, in this beauty. So thank you, and thank you, Todah Lach, for the beautiful words that you shared this evening. I'd like at this time to call upon one of our board members, Julie Teddy, to share some brief words and announcements.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat
My-
Shalom.
My name is Julie Teddy, and I'm a member of your board of directors and also co-president of Women of Beth Israel. Also with me on the beam is Marge Shane, my fearless co-president of WBI. Come on up. It's my pleasure to welcome you to our service this evening, and I want to thank the Men's Club and Women of Beth Israel for ushering tonight. I'm going to turn it to Marge for a moment.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I am so amazed at all you wonderful people here tonight, all our new members. Welcome to Beth Israel. And I also want a special welcome to Rabbi El. I had the pleasure yesterday of being with Rabbi El for a brunch yesterday, most inspiring, as well as this evening. Thank you for being with us, and I hope to join you in Shar Negeb at some point in the future.
We're excited to be here, especially as it is Women's History Month as well. I'd also like to remind you that you can find everything you need to know about Beth Israel and upcoming events at our website, cbisd.org. And then in closing, I'd like to share with you this thought and prayer, which is called Entering Shabbat by Maya Conrad. As we enter this sacred time of Shabbat, may Adonai help us put aside our stresses of daily life and absorb the calm of this holy moment. As Shabbat begins, may Adonai revive our ability to feel the infinite potential this season affords us to regather our scattered selves. In the hallowed space Shabbat creates, may Adonai refresh our connections to our loved ones and our community, expanding the threads which bind us together. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Just want to say before we conclude, we have some young ones in our congregation this evening, and they have been incredibly, wonderfully patient. And I know what it is I can hardly sit through a service, so I can only imagine, just saying. So I'm very well aware that they are, and many, and those who are newer to our congregation, you know we have family Shabbats, and for our tots, we have services that have all different kinds of experiences. So I know that some of you may have liked the music and it may feel a little long, but we're almost there, I promise. And do you know what we do to keep you really interested? We give you sugar later on so that you can keep your parents up at night. And that's our Shabbos gift to you.
And with that in mind, we begin to conclude our service. Aleinu l'shabeach. Won't you please rise? Page 282.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'Adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשינו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמענו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומורדים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. Turn to page 294. We think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us. those who died at this year in seasons past, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. We think of our brothers and sisters in the land of Israel. We think of those fighting in Ukraine. And in our own community, I'm very sad to announce the recent death of Terry Cook, husband of Janet Cook, and father of Mara and Alex. We are in the period of Shloshim, 30 days after burial for Sally Alpert, Richard Friedman, Shirley Mantell Friedman, Susan Halliday, Lynn Maynier, and Dorothy Smith. And we remember those who died at this time in seasons past. Clifford Ashetel, Sidel Ashetel, Rebecca Adelson, Benjamin Altman, Gustav Axelrod, Mickey Berman, Ruth Blumberg, Leonard Brainsky, Sally Krasny Brotman, Kushal Burnett, George Burnett Sr., Yetta Cohen, Harold I. Deutsch, Lily Drucker, Henrietta Ehrenberg, Sandra Fairman, Bob Fisher, Rabbi Leon Fram, Etta Salita Friedman, Robert Gaston, Abner Gitlin, Mildred Glick, Willie Gluck, Anna Goldstein, Herbert Gordon, Marion Green, Edith Greenberg, Rebecca Hahn, Gussie Herman, Stephen D. Karp, Florence Cass, Marilyn Kays, Sylvia Cohn, Sadie Kramer, Gertrude Kronevet, Faye Landy, Milton Lesser, Ruth Lesser, Abraham Jacob Levy, Julius Lesser, Irving J. Lurie, Ernest P. Mannheim, Jeanette I. Mannheim, Frank Marco, Phyllis McCall, Wilfred McCall, Julie McCutcheon, Mickey Michaels, David Modlin, Nathan Newell, Cecile Podoloff, Irving Pollin, Joseph Pullen, Nadia Resnick, Leo Rosen, Saul Rosenberg, Marjorie Rubinson, Marjorie Rubin, Dennis Ruskin, Alex Sasaki, Mary Schoenfeld, Harry Schumann, Steve Schwartz, Helen Seifer, Nathan Schulman, Linda H. Sitnick, Louis Sperling, Morris W. Stein, Joseph S. Stovin, Melvin Strahl, Irving Strub, Fred Tatarsky, Dottie Tenenbaum, Clarice Wiener Turner, Minnie Ushkow, Joan Leffler Walters, Ella Waxenberg, May Weinberg, Phyllis Oshry Wool, and Frank Yee. Perhaps you've come to say Kaddish, and I have not called the name, and as my eyes meet yours, I ask you to share that name with us, and please write in the chat if you're remembering someone as well. We rise together as community for Kadisha Tome, page 294, and we join together. Yitkadal, Yitkadash Shmei Rabbah, Bialma Divrach Irutei V'yamlich Malchutei, B'chayechon Uvyomechon, B'chayedecho Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala Uvizman Kariv Imru, Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah Mevarach, Le'alam Ul'olmei Almaya. Yitbarach, V'yishtabach, V'yitpa'ar, V'yitromam, V'yitnaseh. V'yitadar, V'yitalev, V'yitalal, Shmeid Kudsha Brichu, Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran bi'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru. Amen. Zichronam livracha, may their memories always be for us a blessing.
Amen.
Put your sidurim down and put your arms around the people you came in with if you're feeling safe enough. And we join together in Adon Olam, words you can find on the screens.
Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem Kol, Yitzir Nivra, Li'ed Nasav, B'chefzo Kol, Azai Melech, Shemo Nikra, Ve'acharei Kichlot HaKol, Levado, Imloch Nora, Ve'hu Hayat, Ve'hu Oved, Ve'hu Yeh, V'tipara. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra, Li'ed Nasav V'chefzo Kol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra, Ve'acharei Kichlot HaKol, Levado Yimloch Nora, Ve'hu Haya Ve'hu Oved, Ve'hu Yeh V'tipara. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra, Li'ed Nasav V'chefzo Kol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra, Ve'acharei Kichlot HaKol, Levado Yimloch Nora, Ve'hu Haya Ve'hu Oved, V'tipara, Ve'hu Haya Ve'hu Oved, V'tipara, Ve'hu Haya Ve'hu Oved, V'tipara, Ve'hu Haya Ve'hu Oved, V'tipara. Ve'hu Echad, Ve'ein Shehi, Lehamshilo, Leachbira, Ve'lireshit, Ve'litachlit, Ve'lo ha'oz, Ve'am Yisrael. Ve'hu Eli, Ve'chai Koali, Ve'tzur Chedri, Ve'etzara, Ve'hu Nisi, Umanos Li, Menat Kosi, Ve'yom Ekra. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra, Li'ed Nasav V'chefzo Kol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra, Ve'acharei Kichlot HaKol, Levado Yimloch Nora, Ve'hu Haya Ve'hu Oved, Ve'hu Yeh V'tipara. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra, Li'ed Nasav V'chefzo Kol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra, Ve'acharei Kichlot HaKol, Levado Yimloch Nora, Ve'hu Haya Ve'hu Oved, V'tipara, Ve'hu Haya Ve'hu Oved, V'tipara, Ve'hu Haya Ve'hu Oved, V'tipara, Ve'hu Haya Ve'hu Oved, V'tipara. B'yado Afkid Ruchi, Beit Ishan, Ve'ayira, Adonai li, velo ira. Adon olam Hashem alach b'terem kol yitzir nivra li'et nasav echefsa kol azay melech shemoni kra v'yacharek likvot hakol levado yimloch nora v'hu haya v'hu oved v'hu yeh b'tifara. Adon olam Hashem alach b'terem kol yitzir nivra li'et nasav echefsa kol azay melech shemoni kra v'yacharek likvot hakol levado yimloch nora v'hu haya v'hu oved b'tifara. 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 B'tifara.
Please join in Motzi as we say together, Baruch atah Adonai
Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Shabbat Shalom. Say Shabbat Shalom to someone next to you, around you, behind you. Join us for the oneg and for tribe dinner across the way. Shabbat Shalom.